Hi, this is Professor Rujo with the review of Learning Objective 3 in Chapter 5. So it starts off with information about the financial crisis from 2007, 2008, which was basically part of a huge, bigger problem regarding housing prices and the housing bubble. Okay, once that broke, it had an effect on a lot of things. So certainly to read up a little bit on that. One of the problems I think I have with all of this, personally, when I read this, is to not look at your house as an investment. I mean, you need a home. Everyone needs a home, and that's going to be true regardless. Whatever your house is worth, who cares? You're going to need to live somewhere. You got $1 million house, okay, you sell it. You're going to buy another house. Well, guess what? They probably all cost $1 million by then. So I do see this idea of so much emphasis on the financial value of homes. It is just not helpful because you have to live somewhere. And just like automobiles, if you need a car, you can buy or rent. Well, for homes, there's all those same two options. If you need a home, place to live, you can either buy or rent. And there are pluses and minuses to everything. So that's part of it. So the housing crisis, the housing bubble caught a lot of people off guard because they couldn't afford their homes. And thus they had to default on their loan. Once you default on your loan, which is for a house is called a mortgage, the bank will take ownership of that house. And that's what a foreclosure is. That's listed here. Okay. I know that we live in a country, speaking of behavioral biases, we live in a country that's known for as home ownership as the key to wealth or the key to for middle class wealth. And even though the statistics are true that the home value is the largest part of a person's wealth, particularly in the lower and middle income groups, it's not. It doesn't mean that it's always a great investment because it depends when you purchased your home and depends on what the value is later on. And again, even if you were going to sell it, you still need to live somewhere. As long as you're alive, you need a home. So time to think about those types of things. When it comes to being a homeowner, you really have a few options. You can buy a single family home. Those are certainly the most popular choices. There are other types of housing agreements, such as a condominium and a co-op or a cooperative. And so they all work a little bit different. They're all ownership. They all represent ownership. They just work a little bit differently. There's a video showing you the difference between condos and co-ops as part of this lesson in that regard. It's a very, very good thing. Your book introduces you to something called a rent ratio in terms of looking at, a gauge of whether it's more attractive to buy a house than rent a house. I don't feel it's highly helpful gauge, quite frankly, but someone did this and it's making some money from it, so it's in the book. And again, you look at the annual cost of renting. This is a monthly cost, multiply that by 12, and you divide that by the average price of a house in that particular area. Now, these are all US numbers, so we can't really look at it other than for the full country. But housing prices in New York are much, much higher than they ever would be in Mississippi or Kentucky. So think about that. These are averages. And so what you have is the higher this rate, then you can say renting is a little bit more attractive than buying. The lower the rate, then buying is more attractive than renting. So again, I don't necessarily think it's all that useful, but it is important. We do look at a bunch of things. I think what is very useful is worksheet 5-2, which is looking at an analysis of either renting a home or buying a home. And here you have this worksheet shows, if you have 12 monthly payments at your monthly rent. In this example, it's $850. You have renter's insurance. I've never seen renter's insurance at $600. But anyway, it's usually much lower than that. And then, of course, the opportunity cost of your security deposit, you'd be losing a year's worth of interest. So that's part of a cost of renting, that $40. So for this example, your cost of renting for the year would be $10,840, although again, I don't agree with that. Versus the cost of buying, again, this is an average home in the country where you've already made your 20% down payment, and so you don't need any additional mortgage insurance or other things. So you'd have your mortgage payment per month times 12. You'd have property taxes. And again, this is, again, laughable if you live in New York. They're much higher here than other parts of the country. Homeowners insurance, a little bit higher as well. Maintenance is going to fluctuate. Some houses need more than others, but there's always going to be some maintenance to do. And then, of course, there's some other things like your, after tax cost on your closing and down payment and so forth. So here they total all that up, looking at 14,900 something. So automatically it looks like the cost of buying is much higher than the cost of renting, but they factor in a couple of positives. Number one, if you're paying down your loan, then your reduction in your loan is going to add to your equity. They add that. And they're assuming your house is increasing in value, roughly 2%. So they've added this to lower the cost. Okay. So in this case, that's how they've done this exhibit. Okay, just to know. There's ways to do it on a financial calculator that's shown in the book as well. But again, this is a little bit more reasonable. There's always a question of whether it's worth renting or buying. And again, there's positives and negatives for both.